welcome everybody to Ignite Humanity Live. We are here live with you each and every day. My name is Lady JBO and I am the CEO and founder of Ignite You, Ignite Humanity, and Ignite Publishing. And why am I here? Because I want to share with you incredible, powerful ways for you to step into your greatness so that you can ignite humanity. That's right. We want to empower you. And when I say we, I mean me, my team, and all of the wonderful guests that show up on our show are here to help you step into that incredible version of you, what you love to do, what you care about, what matters to you, what's most important to you. Because when you're doing that, you're igniting your own life. And when you ignite your own life, you can ignite the lives of others. And now more than ever, I come to you with humble heart because we need to come together as a planet, a humanity, a world, society, connection, all of us really coming together to help one another, to support one another, to raise the vibration of the planet so that we have a beautiful future and amazing next generations to come, possibilities for everybody, and a world where we love to live in and love to enjoy our lives. And how are we going to do that? Well, one step at a time, one person at a time, one initiative at a time. And the reason why we want to do this show is to show you what other amazing people on the planet are doing. They're just like you. They started out one step at a time, one idea at a time. They just started going through the motions. They started turning over the rocks. They started knocking on the doors. They started making the effort. And they really stepped into doing something that is inspiring the lives of others. And we want to show you how, if you have an idea, if you have a mission, a desire, a vision to do something, you can just go and get started. And in getting started, you create the momentum and the velocity. You ignite the inspiration and you get the molecules moving and you start attracting the right people and you start inspiring yourself and then getting clearer on your vision. And that helps things unfold. So we have some really powerful tools that we like to talk about at Ignite Humanity, ways that you can inspire others. We have 7 key principles, and I'll share a little bit about them with you. We have the raise the consciousness of the planet on what's possible. And that's really our most important principle is anything and everything is possible. If you Google JB Owen, you will see right away on Google this quote that I say all the time: anything and everything is possible. And we need to awaken our minds and the minds of others, the minds of our children, the minds of our parents, our friends, our family, that anything and everything is actually truly possible. And in fact, I go on to say that anything you want wants you. What you want actually wants you. It wants to come to life. And so when you have a beautiful, amazing idea and you think you have a solution to a problem and you're inspired to go out and help others, it has come to you because it wants you to be the person to bring it to fruition. And so that means anything and everything is possible. And so we want you to believe that everything is possible. And in doing that, we are going to raise the consciousness of the planet. Think for a moment. I love to just sit in this idea. If everyone was living in the center of what was possible for them, if everybody was in the bliss of going through life and doing what was possible for them, can you imagine what a great place the world would be? You'd meet people on the street, you'd meet people in a restaurant, you'd go about your day, you'd check out people on Zoom, you'd find out things on podcasts and TV shows, and everything around you would be inspiring because people were living in the center of what's possible for them. And that's really what we need to aim for. We really need to get there. And so on today's show, I'm going to give you some ideas and some tips and some strategies. It's Thursday on the show, and so that means it's Solution Day. Each and every day on the show, we have themes, and Thursday is all about solutions. We're going to be talking about things that you can do in your home, things that you can do in your family, things that you can do right now to create solutions so that you can start doing more about igniting humanity. And the first solution is I want you to go to our website and sign up for recordings of what we are doing each and every day, 5 days a week. We are going to be coming to you live. But if you miss it, please go to ignitehumanity.life/watch and you can get viewing the recordings of all of our episodes. We're happy to share them with you completely for free. The whole reason we do this is to give and to give and to give. We are not asking anything from you. We just want to pour into you. So go check out our past recordings. We have some phenomenal guests, and then you'll have access to everything we're doing at Ignite Humanity Live, and you'll be inspired. I promise you. So that's the first solution I've got for you. Second solution is, well, we're going to bring in one of my favorite people, one of our authors in the Ignite publishing arm of our business, and someone who is really doing something incredible. Now, I'm in Canada. We had a guest earlier in the show this week from London. Now we're going all the way down to New Zealand to talk to our guests. And that's one of the things you're going to see here is we want to share with you people from around the globe who are doing incredible things. So let me introduce her before she comes into the show. Miss Sarah Cross. Sarah is a 2-time international best-selling author. In her book, Ignite Happiness and Ignite Your Wisdom, those are compilation books where she has shared her amazing story. She's also a speaker and coach in the art of storytelling. Now, we're really going to get into that because when you share your story, you impact the lives of others. And Sarah is really helping people in the art of storytelling. She helps them to become unforgettable and attract clients who fall in love with their message by crafting their powerful and unique story. She is the host of the podcast, Stories That Wow. And I can't wait to share with you about that. I've been a guest on her show. Through inspiring stories, she reminds people of the awe and wonder in the world and the possibilities that surround us all in overcoming challenges. Her mission is to create a ripple effect of light where we all master storytelling and create impact with our voice. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Sarah Cross to the show. Welcome,
Hello.
my darling.
Hello, JB. I am so delighted to be here. Thank you so much for that amazing introduction.
Yeah, so happy to have you because you're like, we are arm in arm and sisters in the power of storytelling and how incredible that is. And you know me, I'm marching around the world telling people that when you share your story, you create these incredible, authentic relationships. And so, folks, if you're always thinking like, I don't have the money to start a business, I don't have the time to create a new initiative, I want you to know, and Sarah and I are going to talk about this, that one of the solutions, and I believe is the solution to igniting humanity, is to share our true and authentic story because that creates connection. Sarah, let's hear it in your words how awesome storytelling is.
It is totally awesome, and I use it every day, and I think it's beyond business like you were describing. I have a young family. I use it with my family. I think it's fabulous to be using with your friends, with everyone around you. And as I've started to delve really into storytelling, what I've realized is that this is the way that we first learned to communicate when we were just children. With my young children, this is what they love. They love more, mummy, more. Can you tell me another story? And it's throughout time before we could write things down. This is how we passed on our culture and our messages and our wisdom through storytelling. And I believe that this is something we still need to hang on to, but sometimes just has got lost, for a lot of people. But I know you yourself are an avid storyteller. You're an amazing storyteller. And it's something that I really want to help people with myself.
Yeah, I so agree with you. And I'll share a little personal. When I was a kid, my mom never really read stories to me. And I always felt left out, or I always felt disappointed. And what I realized is English was not my mom's first language. She was an immigrant to the country. And so reading in English and reading bedtime stories was also not something that she grew up with when she was a child. And so just my own personal missing out or missing having stories read to me actually is part of what has led me to be so passionate about storytelling and how universal it is, how important it is. Now, you and I use the word storytelling and we made a reference to children, but let's just dial it up a bit. As an adult, we also have an incredible story. And often our stories, our trials and our tribulations, and the highs and lows of our story is really a part of what has defined us and refined us. Can you talk about the power of your story as you grow up and you become an adult and you sort of step into your business and your brand and your mission?
Absolutely. And I think that because information is so readily available to us now, and we have become such conscious consumers, that we want to know the story behind the brand, behind the person. We want to know what their values are, what they stand for. We really want to get to know why we're investing in something. And so I think it is, like you say, essential that people start to unpack or look at who they are and what message they're saying and how they are communicating that to their audience. So it's really something that is so powerful. And at the end of the day, all marketing is just telling a story. It's telling a story of what your product or your service will do for that person, how they will feel through the process. And also, I think that authenticity of people wanting someone who has walked the walk, who has been through, and it makes you relatable. And there are so many ways, I think, because even when I started looking into the science and the background behind it, our brains are designed to lean into story. Stories are 22 times easier to remember than facts. And so really, we are being kind to our audience when we're giving them a story, because that is what our brains want to hear. That is what they will remember. And we all want to be unforgettable because there's so much competition out there. And I believe that our unique story is what separates us from everybody else.
And I like that you say unique, because every single person on the planet has a unique story. And I tell people all the time, there's no one else that has your story, that came through your journey. And so the fact that it is so unique to you, like your fingerprint, like your eye color, like, your very unique DNA, your story is so special. And therefore, we should highlight it. We should celebrate it. We should really bring it to the forefront of what we're doing. I would like to also say authentic story really has to be at the highlight and the forefront of the word story, because in social media now and the way the world is, people can tell a story that isn't really true or authentic, or sort of lead into, like, implying. And you and I are huge proponents of the authentic story, the story that comes from fact, from a place of it was something we did, we went through. Can you go on about the importance of the authentic story?
Yes, and in fact, JB, I have a really interesting story about this very thing, because when my husband and I were actually in Florida, we used to love going out, and we found this incredible restaurant, and on the bottle of wine on the back was this story about how this couple had sailed around the world, and they had ended up arriving in New Zealand, and they had fallen in love with New Zealand. They'd found this vineyard, which they'd bought, and they'd given up sailing around the world to invest in this wine. And this was the story on the back of the label. And of course, my husband being from New Zealand and us being on a boat, we fell in love with this story, and we fell in love with the wine. And every time we went out, we told everyone, you have to drink this wine, it's so amazing, read this story. And we loved it so much that when we were getting married, we decided this is the wine we wanted at our wedding, and we were going to have it imported and shipped all the way in. But the year before we did, there was a festival, a wine festival in New Zealand. And I went to it, and they had a stand of this wine. And I went over to them and I spoke to them about how we wanted to import their wine. And the woman said at the stand, she said, well, actually, the woman you're talking about, the CEO who set up the company, she's just standing behind you. And I had that moment where I was like, oh my goodness, I'm meeting the celebrity. Here is the person who I have been just wondering, could this be us? I was so overcome a little bit. And I went up to her and I told her how much I loved her wine. And I asked her about her travels on a boat around the world. And she took a breath and she said, well, actually, we did do a trip on a boat, and we went off to a few Pacific islands. But as I started talking to her, I realized that she was from New Zealand. She already knew the area, and she didn't quite sail round the world. They'd done maybe a couple of trips where they'd been out of New Zealand to, like I said, some of the Pacific Islands, maybe Fiji, and then come back. And she said, oh yes, that story was for marketing in the States. And right away, my whole I was like, oh my goodness, my dream had been shattered. And in that moment, I realized we were not going to have that wine at our wedding. And so for me, it's very, very real how you need to do an authentic story.
Oh my gosh, I love that story because it's true. Like, our stories make us feel so connected to the mission and the purpose and the vision, and these people were sailing, and I was with you in it, like, and I was envisioning it, like the sailing and the voyage and all of that. And then you're right, to find out that it wasn't 100% authentic was such a letdown. Conversely, when you meet people and you don't know their story, for example, and you're shy or you're not sure about them or you feel a little bit standoffish. And then and I'll tell you a story. This is so interesting. I was at an event, and it was a business event. And one of the lunchtime exercises were to go and have lunch with the person you feel the most resistance to in the room. And so it was like quite weird. They are like, okay, everybody stand up and go ask the person you feel the most resistance to in the room, ask them for lunch. Well, I stood up and 3 people came at me all at the same time. Can I have lunch with you? Because 3 people had so much resistance to me. And I, of course, felt immediately flushed and embarrassed. But what I said was, well, since there's 3 of you, can we all have lunch together? So all 3 of me, those people and me, went to lunch, all 3 of them saying they had the most resistance to me in the room. And when I sat down and had lunch with them, and I started, talking with them and sharing my story and why and they had shared, you're standoffish, you're so quiet, you have kind of a look on your face, you don't seem very friendly, you're not having as much fun as everyone else. And of course, I had just gone through a divorce. I had just had some challenges in my life. But when I shared my story of where I had come from and what was going on with me and why I was holding back and how I was feeling and what was really going on with me, do you know what happened? Those 3 people became like my best friends in the group, in the entire room of 300 people, because I had the opportunity to share with them what was really authentically going on with me. And they had these impressions that I was this horrible person and angry and defensive and snotty and all of that, until they found out how much I was really hurting and suffering inside, and I was just keeping to myself. And in sharing that story, that real truth of me instead of their perception of me, really made us friends to this day, which is so, so powerful, because it's not easy to meet somebody when they say they have resistance towards you. And so both of these are examples, folks, of really powerful ways that your story, and I like to even go on to say your authentic truth, the truth of you and who you are and what you do and what you stand for, that authentic truth is so attractive to people. Wouldn't you agree, Sarah?
Yes, I love that story. I think it's very actually courageous to do that and go out for lunch. And I think that opportunity, yes, because I think we're all struggling with different things. And it's something that I often actually repeat to my children, that the way that people react sometimes, and like you, has nothing to do with that particular circumstance right now and right then. It could be something that happened yesterday or before, and we often don't know what's really going on inside other people's minds. And yet when people give us that opportunity to say, hey, I'm dealing with this, people are like, oh my goodness, she's just like me. And then they can really relate. And I think that is, like you just gave the amazing example, is so powerful, because it's so easy to feel alone, that we're the only one going through something, that struggling with our business, or with family issues, or whatever it is, adapting to a new environment, is that lots of people go through the same struggles every single day. And I know that in business or in coaching that often I myself prefer to reach out, or even doctors. If someone has been through, if someone's experienced what I'm experienced, then straight away the trust factor is there, the understanding is there. It's someone I can relate to. And yes, definitely agree with you 110%.
Right. And we all have our perception and our filter and our lens. And I think when we allow people to hear our story, we fine tune that lens so that the perception is actually accurate. Because a lot of people can make judgments. You can make a judgment about what I'm wearing on my head right now, only to find out that just last month I was in India visiting with the Dalai Lama and was just so inspired by the Indian culture, and truly, just came back feeling love and reverence for that experience. Now you know the story, so now you can assign and fine tune the filter that it makes sense, that it's clear, it becomes endearing. And compassion is a huge thing that comes through sharing our authentic story. Sarah, it's Solution Day, so let's talk about some solutions. Can you give some tips or strategies to help people at home really start doing this, start dipping their toe into sharing their authentic truth?
Yes, and I think what you just said is a great thing, that you just start by dipping your toe in, because I have been someone, and from a young age, I would be like, I am so terrible at jokes. I always forget the punchline. And so because of that, I think that trickles on. Oh, I'm no good at telling stories. No one listens to me. Why would anyone hear what I've got to say? And I think it really just does start with practicing one story, or having one story that you really just know is important to you. And it can start with just practicing that out loud, because stories can be so big and then they can be so small. And I think key to that is the start, and again also the punchline at the end, how you're going to end it. Because I know myself, and I think one of the reasons that I've always thought I'm never good at stories relates to the fact that I'm no good at telling jokes, because jokes have a real specific ending. And we can be starting to tell a story and then we're rambling and we think, where am I going with this story? What's the point? And if you've actually thought in advance, this is the point of my story, this is what I want people to remember, or this is the ending of it, I think that really, for me, it's given me a real sense of peace, that okay, when I feel like I've got my story, I know how to wrap it up and tie it up and put it together. And so to me, stories are really starting how you start them and how you end them. And I don't think often enough thought is gone into those two elements of a story. I know that through the writing, it's something that you show people very well as well, but that same element relates to when we talk about a story.
I agree with you so much, because many times people tell a story for sympathy, or they tell a story for drama, or they tell a story for gossip. And I will share with you folks, telling a story for gossip is, really, in a lot of ways, just the root of evil, because gossip just has this way of, filtering into the worst parts of us. And Sarah is so correct. When you know your story, and I've done this with 700 authors that we put through our publishing platform, knowing the wisdom and the golden nugget and the essence of the story and what is you want to impart and glean from the story so that the listener feels empowered, that is really the power of a story. When you think about, even from the beginning of time, and you think about Disney, and you think about all the great storytellers, they tell stories so that people feel empowered at the end, enlightened, they feel a sense of upliftment. And in many ways, in the 21st century, we've gotten really habitual about telling stories that have like this negative sort of fearful or disaster. We need to turn the dial on that. And that's why we do, and Ignite Humanity is here, and Sarah with her books, telling stories that have powerful endings so that it inspires people to take action. So folks, we want you to take action. And Sarah's got a good suggestion. Just dip your toe in to start telling stories and know where you're headed and know where you're going. And Sarah, you and I can both agree too, like, keep your stories, if it's conversational, entertaining, interesting, short, and to the point. Because why? You want to invite your co-conspirator in your conversation to share their story. You want to be able to have it back and forth, so you telling a long-winded story doesn't give the other person a chance to tell their story. Well, you have been doing stories with your podcast. Tell us a little bit about that, just so people know where to find you.
Yes, thank you very much. And I think it's been part from your inspiration about reading so many other incredible stories through the Ignite books and sharing my own, that my focus changed, and I just wanted to see more of these positive, uplifting stories of possibilities, because I think it's so easy to get drawn into the news, which is a mainly negative bias, and we're left walking away from that feeling, the world's just such a depressing place and there's so much going wrong. And yet at the same time, there's so many wonderful, amazing people on this planet doing incredible things. And they're not necessarily huge things. Maybe they're just getting by each day. But within each of us, you know yourself, because this is where the books come from, we have amazing stories. And so this was really my inspiration to share more of these through my podcast, Stories That Wow. And going along, I have been so wowed myself just listening to other people. I know I've had yourself on, and I recently also had Catherine Switzer, who was the first woman to officially run the Boston Marathon, and her story of what she went through, and then even beyond that, of allowing and campaigning to get women in the marathon, and then even to have the marathon accepted for women in the Olympics. And her journey of what she came up against and the stigmas at the time that women can't physically run. It's impossible. All these boundaries and barriers that she hit up against. And it really was a great reminder that we can overcome so much more than we think we can. And this is what I like to highlight in my podcast, just these incredible people going about things because she thought she was just running a race because she loved to run. She wasn't thinking that here I am about to change the world. And yet we just don't know what our actions can lead to. And sometimes they've led to just incredible things. And so, yes, it's just such a joy to share these stories.
Such a great example how one person can be a ripple effect to make a massive impact that's going to ignite humanity. And so, folks, if that is you, if you've got an idea just like that, go to Sarah's podcast and watch the episode with her and I, and check out what she's doing. Sarah, love having you here, gorgeous. So glad, so blessed to have you. Big hugs and kisses, and keep igniting humanity.
Thank you.
All right, folks, you got it. We love having our guests because it's just examples of no matter where you are in the world and no matter what you do, you can step into the opportunity to ignite your lives. And so I'd love to share with you. If you want to tell us your story, please go to share@igniteyou.life. And I'm sorry, igniteyou.life/share, and tell us a little bit about you and what you're up to and how you are igniting humanity. We'd love to hear from you and share with you. And there you go. See, I'm even incorrect. Email us at share@igniteyou.life. That's terrific. Email us and tell us a little bit about what you're up to and how you're igniting humanity. And then also you can share with us what your friends or someone you know, if you have a friend or colleague who's really making a big difference, we want to hear from you. Well, I want to share right now that you can always find us at ignitehumanity.life. More on our website. Find out how you can participate and play and hang out with us. Go check out our podcast and see what we're up to at ignitehumanity.life/podcast. And remember, when you ignite yourself, you ignite others, and that will ignite humanity. Blessings. We'll see you tomorrow.
Now, more than ever, we need to come together to connect with one another. We need to feel the truth in who we are and let go of everything that's happened in the past. We need to empower every person on the planet and awaken hearts, enliven souls, come together, laugh, play, rejoice, connect, create, and love. It's time to ignite humanity. We want you to be a part of something that will impact the future for everyone. We want you to tell your story, share your Ignite moment, show people who you truly are. Be a part of igniting humanity and making a difference in the world and all of our futures.